Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Michele Scarlet's True Health Podcast. Today we're speaking with Barbara Madimenos, certified health coach specializing in women's metabolic disorders and HTMA testing. Hi Barbara, thank you for coming today. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So right off the top, although I may understand what you specialize in, being metabolic disorders, can you make it crystal clear for our listeners, like what it is that you actually do and why it is so important?
Sure. So essentially, metabolic disorders are under the list of things that will affect our metabolism, from things that go to our weight, to how we break down our food, to even our mental health, to our hormones. Our metabolism is like everything that runs the ship, right? It's how fast and how capable we are in actually utilizing and burning energy. And everything that we do requires energy, right? So this could be blood sugar issues, thyroid issues, adrenal issues, hormone issues, and so forth. And it's so important because, like I said before, everything that we depend on is energy. We need to eat in order to survive, but we also need to have the ability to metabolize what we eat in order to function properly. So this is why I've decided to take a focus in on the metabolism specifically.
Amazing. I think that a lot of people, when they hear the word metabolism, they really only think about their weight. And, you know, it very easily somebody will say like, oh, I have a slow metabolism and that's why I can't lose weight, or I have a fast metabolism and that's why I can't gain weight. But people really don't understand how complex the word and the processes of metabolism actually are. And they literally are everything that drives the ship.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's funny because when we are taught about the metabolism in comparison to like what society or like what we read in like magazines or on the TV, you know, yes, that people coin it as fast or slow metabolism, but it's really just how well the metabolism is working. Because even if you are too fast or too slow, it's not a good thing. You always kind of want to be in that middle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, can you give us an example or a few examples of a metabolic disorder?
Yeah, sure. So let's say, for instance, somebody is struggling with hypothyroidism. You can then understand that it's the body in many cases struggling to be able to utilize the energy that it already has. Sometimes it could be many things, because it could also be like a mineral issue. It could be an organ tissue issue as well, because hypothyroidism could have many different subfactors, whether it's the actual organ in itself or whether it's an inability to synthesize and convert that T4 to T3. But at the end of the day, this is an energy issue, because if we don't have enough energy to convert things or even produce certain hormones at the beginning of everything, then that is what is going to actually accumulate to not being able to lose weight, a low body temperature, depression, hair loss, all these things that come with hypothyroidism.
So now, if somebody was had hypothyroidism and went to their medical doctor and like suspected that they might have something like that, like literally just based on some of the symptoms that you just listed, what would they need from their doctor? Because I've been to the doctor and tested my thyroid and everything always comes back normal, but it's far from normal.
I know. And it's funny because there's so many different avenues in which hypothyroidism could show up. Typically, if you're going to check specifically just your thyroid markers, you want to do a full thyroid markup from your TSH, which is a thyroid hormone. As many people know, it's a pituitary hormone, but we have then our T4, our T3, our reverse T3, and our thyroid antibodies. That full picture will give us a good understanding if we are converting or not, or if there's some type of issue with the thyroid gland in itself. But some people could be considered subclinically hypothyroid, and they don't necessarily have any markers on blood work that will show that they have a thyroid issue per se, but they might have a mineral issue, like they have too much calcium, for instance, in their tissues, which could block their cells in actually absorbing thyroid hormone, or they might have a potassium deficiency, which actually helps sensitize our cells to thyroid hormone to actually use it in the first place. So there's many different factors. Or you could even look at the gut or the liver, because that's where we convert our T4 to T3. So I would say to take things one step at a time when you go to your doctor. And if blood work is really not showing anything and you're like, oh my God, I really feel like in my gut that this is what I have. Next thing is to maybe run a couple of functional labs, because those might give you other answers.
Absolutely. And for those listening, MDs don't typically run functional labs. I've not come across one. So coming to a practitioner like Barbara, who specializes in this, would be ideal. So where would you start if somebody came to you saying, this is how I'm feeling, this is, I know something's wrong, my doctor keeps telling me that it's totally normal. Where would you start?
So I run on every single client that I take on. I always run a hair test on them. It's included in my package for free. It's a standard. But depending on other things that they might be struggling with, like if they're telling me that they're bloated, or they have like bowel issues, or if they have, I don't know, a history of like fungal issues, for instance, I might run an O test on them, or I might run a GI map test on them, or it just might be the HTMA to begin with. But I take all my clients bio individually, because, keep in mind, not everyone can afford every single lab too, but
Sure.
That's the beauty of it. I mean, it's really looking, number one, at your medical history, number two, at your symptoms, and number three, like what's the goal that we're trying to improve first and foremost.
Absolutely. Okay. And so if the mandatory test that you run is the HTMA, can you tell us specifically what it is and what you get from it in terms of results?
Yeah. So a hair test, I guess you can kind of think of it as like a hair biopsy in a way. Okay. It's because our hair is a form of a tissue, but what's really cool is that in hair, we can actually see an accumulation of what our body is excreting out in a way. It's just like a urine, if you think about it. But because it's not water soluble, I mean, we do have water soluble minerals, but it's not just pure water solubility, and it's not so quick in a 24-hour time span. Usually with hair, we see about a 3-month average of our mineral status. But in hair testing, you could also see heavy metals. So what's cool is that every single mineral we have in our body has its own function. So for instance, like we know calcium is really important for the bones, but it's also considered a buffer when it comes to our nervous system, to helping us calm down, or even our blood sugar as well. But every other mineral like magnesium, sodium, potassium, copper, zinc, the whole list, it has its own function. But every mineral also works in synergy or in tangent with another mineral too. So we also have to look at the ratios. And this is what I really love, because ratios in a way emulate different body systems. So when you look at like the calcium to phosphorus ratio, you're looking at your nervous system. When you're looking at the calcium to potassium ratio, you're looking at your thyroid. And so with a hair test, you can see almost like a full body review of how the body's functioning, and how this energy that we were speaking of before with the metabolism, if it's being used properly, or if it even has enough of at all, and if there's any blockers such as metals, which could potentially actually cause us to not be able to utilize certain minerals, or even possibly make us deficient.
Yeah. Wow. That's actually really incredible. So can you tell me a little bit about how you got into this?
Yeah, so I didn't get into it right off the bat when I became a health coach. I thought at first I was just going to focus on hormones when I got into health coaching, or mental health. But I was diagnosed with osteoporosis back in 2018. And when I discovered that, I was like, oh my God, I need to figure out a way to try and regain some bone density. I'm only 25. Like, this
I
is
was going
really
to
bad.
say, you're so young. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went down the whole rabbit hole of like calcium, vitamin D, K2, like what does one require to increase osteoblast versus osteoclast, like this whole thing with how to regain bone density, especially at such a young age. And I fell upon minerals because I then discovered that bones don't just contain calcium, but they are a mixture. They're a bone matrix of, I don't know, over 70 different minerals, from selenium to magnesium, boron, chromium, all these things. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I should do some hair testing to see like if I'm deficient in anything or if there's something I need to fix. And as I did the testing and as I understood more on like how to read it and what things represented, I got into it and I was like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. So I need to specialize in this.
Really, that's very cool. You touched on the mental health aspect of things, and you said that you might go down that path. What has that looked like for you? And has the, this type, the HTMA, the hair testing, et cetera, the metabolic disorder, does it touch on mental health at all?
Yeah, so I struggled with an eating disorder for about 16, 17 years. And I realized as I was in school to become a health coach, I realized that there wasn't a lot of support in that, in the way that I felt like I needed support in it. Like there's health coaches out there who specialize in like eating disorders or depression or bipolar disorder and things like that. But I felt like there was a missing piece on not just supplementing our way out of it, but really trying to figure out the root cause and as to why some people might develop it. Yes, it could be genetic in some cases, but I feel like there's many layers to a mental health disorder actually becoming what it is. And with hair testing, you can most definitely see mental health issues or like certain patterns of like how a mental health disorder might represent itself. So for instance, there's a ratio on a hair test called the sodium to potassium ratio, and it's also coined as the vitality ratio. It's also recognized as an adrenal ratio, but it's particularly how resilient the body is. And when it's at a very low number, I believe it's anything below a 2 or a 1, it essentially signifies that there's trauma in the body. So it could mean a sign that somebody has gone through extreme grief or fear, or when you were a kid, I don't know, maybe your parents got a divorce, like something affected the nervous system to such a point that it has this inability to stay resilient in times of extreme stress or even minimal stress. And I saw it on my patterns that growing up, every time I would run a hair test, my sodium to potassium ratio would constantly be low. It was like this inability to budge, and my nervous system was always very sensitive to any type of stress. Even though I'm a very proactive and busy bee, like you throw anything at me and I'll do it, and you wouldn't think that I have this low vitality, but if I overwork myself, I'm out. It's like as if I fall into like a burnout. So that's one thing, but you could also pick up things up. Like if you're magnesium deficient, you're more likely to potentially struggle with anxiety. Or if you have like a high calcium to magnesium ratio, this could also be a sign of on your way to a burnout. Or if you have a low calcium to magnesium ratio, it could be a sign of overwhelm from life in general. So there's different little things that you could see on a hair test. Also patterns with the first main 4 elements. There's like a bowl pattern or a hill pattern. There's many different things that we could pick up on to see how someone is emotionally holding themselves up in life.
Wow, that is this is powerful stuff. That is powerful stuff. So now, if, let's say I knew that I had trauma. I mean, most people know they have trauma, I feel like.
Yeah.
Whether they know how to heal that, I don't know. Let's say I was really suffering from some emotional trauma that happened to me 15 years ago, and I felt really stuck. And I came to you as a client. We ran a hair test, and you saw that, yes, my nervous system definitely needed some work. Would it be as simple as supplementing with minerals? Would my body even allow it? Would it absorb it? Or would it be more work? Like, would it be something that we would have to work on sort of outside of mineral supplementation?
I'm of the belief it's both. I know there are some practitioners out there who specialize in hair testing that they think that they could purely solve everything through just mineral supplementation or like rebalancing the minerals, whether it's through food or supplements. But I'm of the belief that if you are not ready to process what has gone through, because the brain, no matter what age you are, I mean, yes, when you're younger as a child, you're capable of bouncing back from things because your brain is more like sponge-like. But even as an adult, in order for us to process things, we still need to literally see, experience, and feel to learn what has happened, right? And to not go back into old patterns. So I would say it's both. And even like, keep in mind that minerals do influence our personality to a certain extent, right? Like if you're deficient in something and you're not feeling good, of course you're going to feel depressed, right? But if we fix that deficiency and then you feel a bit lighter and brighter, it's not that your personality or you as a person has changed. It's just you are capable of being happier in general. So I do think supplements can definitely take us to a certain extent, but we still need to process whatever has happened.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I think that the emotional connection to our physical bodies is something that is highly overlooked. I think that from my own experience in processing trauma, the healing really has to be done like from a nervous system level. You have to sort of debunk the story that is in your head about whatever has happened to you. And it is a practice every day that when something triggers you, to remember that that story isn't really accurate. And then I almost feel like the supplementation part of it just enhances your ability to then deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're in a more balanced state ultimately.
Yes. And that mental, and another thing that I'd also would like to add is like, if you're stressed, you're gonna burn through certain minerals, right? So like having that mental capacity to know that you're going to go through it will also relieve the stress on the body and how you're utilizing energy in the first place. And if you are in an energy deficient state, then that's not going to help our purpose. Even if we're just throwing pills at you, you still need to mentally have that knowing that you're going to get onto the other side.
Yeah, that's powerful. So when somebody comes to you that has some sort of emotional trauma, do you coach them through it? Do you have somebody that you refer out? How do you work on it with them?
It depends just how severe the trauma is. If it's something that I know is totally out of my scope, I will usually refer them out. If it's something like eating disorder related, I usually feel pretty well equipped to handle it just because I've had like half my life has been this. So
Yeah.
I kind of know how to get through it. But I always tell them, like, listen, if you need professional help, like whether it's to go see a therapist or like whether you want to go to like a somatic healer or somebody like that, like by all means, like this is your program. We are going to formulate and create a team for you so you could get this done and come out of it feeling like $100.
That is incredible. I love that. We're going to build a team for you. I think that is something that medical doctors really miss the mark on. I know that a lot of holistic practitioners, so like obviously like you, like myself, like everybody in our group, we definitely come together in a way that medical doctors don't seem to want to. They tend to look at a test and go, oh, this is wrong. I'll give you a pill for that. Or, oh, no, this is totally fine. Until it gets to here, I'm not going to do anything. And then I'll just give you a pill for that. Or if they do refer you to a specialist, at least here, that specialist and your doctor never really speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like nobody is like really creating this like safety net for you as the client or as the patient to know that you're going to get taken care of in every aspect, which is what I think is what you and I do. Like, what an amazing system that we can create for a patient, right?
Yeah, like you need to communicate. Like that's the whole purpose, because you can't just throw it onto the client who's like already stressed out of their mind and worried that nothing's going to work, or they're like, am I ever going to feel better? It's like, no, like connect with the other professional, get up to date, and come to the client and be like, hey, it's going to be okay. Like, don't worry, we got you.
Yeah, and I think that healing, just in general, most people who come to you or I have probably been to many different practitioners, but I feel like people want to feel good overnight, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody is just like quick fix, like I don't want to feel sad anymore, I don't want to feel anxious anymore, I don't want my stomach to hurt anymore, etc. But unfortunately, it really is, it's like an investment in your health. It takes a long time. Now, I will say on my journey, it didn't take long for me to feel better. Was I 100%? Absolutely not. But did I see the light that made me want to keep going? Absolutely. And I would say it was probably a good 5-year process for me when it came to the emotional side of things, the physical side of things. And I will say a word that would describe how I feel outside of that now is like free. Like finally free. You know what I mean? When you're like really through it. And yeah, it's a practice to like to be aware of yourself every day, but it is so much easier than sort of sitting in the depths of not feeling well.
Yeah. It feels like as if you're taking years away from your life when you are in that state of mind and in that feeling. I feel like, and we can totally empathize over, like, some people truly cannot afford it, and I totally get that. I mean, especially in today's economy, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, if not now, when? And
When
if you can't do it now, like truly you cannot do it now, what can you start? Like, can you just start with maybe, I don't know, one-off sessions instead of a program? Can you start off on maybe just asking for, I don't know, like doing their, I don't know, some people offer like weekly group check-ins or something, like there's a variety of different resources out there. And I feel like people have like this mentality, whether it's like they have to jump into it fully or they don't do anything at all. And it's like, you can go halfway sometimes, because sometimes a little bit is enough just to get you started.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you, and you go as far into it as you want for our listeners. I think it's important, but again, whatever your boundary is, I'm fine with that. So you did talk about having an eating disorder for 16 years. I imagine trauma, causing that and then creating that as well. So can you tell us about your experience and then what you did to rise above it?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with my eating disorder at 13 years old. I was struggling, though. I wasn't diagnosed with this, but I did pick up that I was struggling with a bit of depression starting at 11, or even a bit of anxiety. I would say more a mix of the two, because my parents got a divorce when I was 11. But their divorce was very messy, very complicated. It lasted for many, many years. And so it kind of took a toll on me. And me being the elder sister, I was like, yes, I am going to take a step up in this family and try to be the father of the household now, because my father left. So it was like this. It was a weird dynamic that I took on. It's like I wasn't allowed to feel things starting at a young age, even though I was mentally aware that I was going through something. So it lasted many years. I was in and out of hospitals, in and out of mental health institutes. I think I've seen every single type of mental health specialist that you can think of, from a therapist, psychotherapist, psychologist, you name it. Like, I have seen every single person. And it never worked on me. But looking back now, I do realize that it probably didn't work on me because I just didn't want the help. And when you don't want help, no one can help you. And it was, the journey was very tumultuous, because it wasn't just my eating disorder and my anxiety and my depression, but I had like self-harm tendencies. I was a binge drinker up until like my early 20s. Like, I was all over the place until the age of, I think I was 24. I suddenly started getting nosebleeds.
Oh, wow.
Which was very weird, because I never struggled with nosebleeds in my life. And it was like this random type of nosebleed where it would bleed, and it would bleed for like half an hour, maybe an hour, which was completely abnormal. And I went to the hospital a few times, and they were like, there's nothing wrong, we don't know what to do, whatever. They checked, they saw that I was severely dehydrated, gave me an IV, and sent me home. And then one night I was online and I was like, what could this be? And I ended up on some Reddit forum, And yeah, of all places. And there were some people saying how they were experiencing nosebleeds and they were connecting them to potential seizures.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was like, am I having a seizure and I don't know about it?
Yeah.
So it kind of scared me a little bit into starting recovery, but it I wasn't 100% in recovery. And then when the next year, when I was 25, I remember it was Halloween. I went to the gym and I did some type of a jump and I landed on my feet, and all of a sudden I heard a crack and I broke my hip.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was a fun experience because no one knew I had a broken hip for a month. Um, they thought I had sciatic nerve. So I was running from doctor to doctor, physio to physio. Everyone's like, try to walk on it. I'm like, I can't, I'm in pain, like all these things. Finally, they did an x-ray after a month. So this is Halloween until end of November. And they're like, oh, hey, you broke your hip in 2 places, you need surgery.
Oh my gosh.
And that's when I was diagnosed with osteoporosis. And so being 25 and you have like an orthopedic surgeon over you, and they're saying, well, like at this rate, you're going to end up in a wheelchair by the age of 40. It scares you a bit. So that kind of shook me into wanting to get better, because I was like, I'm not going to be dependent on anyone. Like, this isn't happening in my life. Like, I'm independent. I don't want anyone's help. Like, I need to fix my life. So that's what initially started it. But going through the process, I realized I had a lot of issues to deal with. And that's when I decided to go back to school, because I was like, I don't want to do this for my life. Because initially I was a writer, I was a journalist. I was like, I need people, I need to help people with this, because clearly if I don't have the resources, then how many other people have these resources, and or who have gone through the same thing that I've gone through. So that's
How you're here.
healing.
Holy, what a story. How it's so amazing how, I mean, you light up when you talk about you, not maybe not your experience, but like clearly how it's brought you to where you are today. But like how incredible is it that something like breaking your hip, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
saved your life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And has brought you to a place where you are healed. Not
Yeah.
just hip wise, but like
yes.
mentally, yeah. Obviously your hip is better now.
Yeah. Like, it was a blessing in disguise. I mean, it's not fun to break your hip, obviously,
No.
and to get pins inside of you or anything like that. But it's like, if that didn't happen, I know 100% that I probably wouldn't have ever recovered from my eating disorder. Like, I probably wouldn't be here. Like, I knew I was at rock bottom. I was at the lowest weight I had ever reached. I was like, just my mental space was not well. It was a trigger, and like life kind of like took me by the hair and was like, girl, if you don't do something, like, we're gonna take you with us. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And literally by the hair. Now you
Yeah,
specialize in hair testing.
exactly.
Well, I'm really happy that you came through all of that, because that's not fun for any young woman or man to go through. So I'm happy that you like recovered in that sense. There was something that you had mentioned to me prior to us getting on here that I found really interesting, and I wanted to ask you, and you can relate it back to your own illness or just the way you feel. You say women's perspectives on themselves reflect their illness. Can you just give us some more information about that? I really love that, and I have a bit to talk about on it, but I just want to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of women now I feel okay. A lot of women try to have it all, and not in the sense that like they can't have it all, but they try to put up this image that they have it all, in the sense like they have it all together, that they're fine on their own, that they're independent, and they could get through anything, they're tough. And you are 100% tough, and I totally believe in you, but it's okay to ask for help. And I feel like a lot of women also hold this place in themselves where they don't believe in themselves, or that they don't feel like they might not be enough, or they don't feel like they deserve love, or they don't feel like they're smart enough or they're pretty enough. And these illnesses could manifest themselves in from a place of scarcity. And looking back at my own journey, and even to today, I'm not 100% perfect. I mean, I'm 30.
Nobody is.
I mean, 17 years of having a disorder like that, you don't heal overnight. But
Sure.
like I see that there are places in my life where, or illnesses that I still, not illnesses, but like symptoms I still might struggle with, or I'm like, that's a manifestation of like how I'm thinking of myself. And it's coming out in a form of how my body's trying to communicate to me, right? So it's really about learning the language of our minds and the language of the body and how they're actually connected. So that's how I see it.
Definitely. The way you think about yourself is how your symptoms are going to show up.
Yeah, I
It's
100% agree. It's also
incredible.
it's also this thing that I remember writing an article about eating disorders like many years ago. I think I was in CEGEP. CEGEP, by the way, is like college for anyone. I'm in Montreal, Quebec, so we have CEGEP, we don't have college, and then we have university. But it's I remember how it the way I was explaining it in the article was that people who have like anorexia it's like they want to self-sacrifice themselves and not allow themselves to nourish themselves as a means to show how strong they are. And so that's why they try to go off of nothing. It's almost like it's like a self-sacrificial act in a way, to show people that it's okay, I'm well and I could do it on my own and I don't need your help, and I'm fine with nothing. And then it's interesting because I had friends when I was in the hospital many times who struggled with bulimia, and I saw them in a way it was like they were trying to reject something inside of them. And so that's how they were using this disorder to somehow harm themselves, because it was like, no, there's something wrong with me, so I have to take it out of me.
Oh, wow.
And so that's how it's interesting when you look at the disorders or any type of like not even just mental health disorders, but like illness in a way, like how we see ourselves, it could manifest into how we're acting on us.
Okay, so I want to bring us back to your specialty ultimately. And you know what? I would maybe even put metabolic disorder. I would, I mean, we talk about that as being an energy input and output for all of your body's processes. And if we were to think about mental illness, I mean, I don't know if you categorize it, but now as I'm thinking about it and talking to you, I feel like we could absolutely categorize that as a metabolic disorder
Oh
for a
yeah.
lot of people. Wow, that's really incredible. So I want to bring us back to that. So can you tell me a little bit specifically about the hair analysis test? So my hair is colored. So if I were to send it to you, how would that work?
Typically we want a few washes. If you're going to do colored hair, ideally we want untreated hair.
Okay.
If you wanted to just grow your roots a bit, then that would be great, because what you would do essentially is that you would cut a strand, not just a single strand, but a section of hair, ideally as close to the nape of the neck. And so you could color the rest of your head if you wanted, but like that section, which would be about an inch thick, is what we would send to the lab. So if you could just not color that would be great. But if it is colored, we want maybe about 3 to 5 washes, and then you could send it.
Okay, interesting. That's really cool. I did hear that you couldn't have any color in your hair, but that's good to know. What was I going to say? What is like the length? If I had to send you my root, what is the length of hair that you would need?
We would need about an inch to 2 inches. So I tell
That's
people
not too
2
bad.
inches to be safe, but because everybody's hair is also, if you have fine hair, it will be less heavy, but 1 to 2 inches max.
Interesting. That's very, very cool. Okay, so I have a couple more questions for you. One, you did mention about how this kind of service that you and I provide can be out of somebody's budget. So if they were going to start today, like changing their world, going down their health journey today, and they weren't able to see you or I or another practitioner like us, what are three free things that they could do that would like get them on track, whether that be dealing with stress better, whether that be, sleeping better, et cetera? Like, what are three tips that people could say that would be free for them?
So number one, I would say you have to fix your sleep. Sleep is so underrated. And I'm speaking from experience. I have been a night owl all my life. I would pull all-nighters in university. I know people don't understand or the level of just how important it is. Be in bed by 10, maximum 11 if you're a man, but women need approximately 9 to 10 hours of sleep. Believe it or not, we just need more rest in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I would follow the traditional Chinese medicine clock, which I find like is a good visual for people to understand like which organ systems work at night and during the day. So number one, sleep in accordance to the traditional Chinese medicine clock. And number two, eat in accordance to the traditional Chinese medicine clock, because we have this circadian pattern in how our digestive system works also.
Interesting.
And the last third thing that I would say is that is free and that I feel like everyone should do is lift weights. Like, please lift weights. Whatever you do, if you're going to go into exercising, doesn't matter what, just please lift something heavy.
Yeah. I see on your Facebook all the time that you're always at the gym, which is lovely. I have one last question for you. If you could give one word to describe your healing journey from where you started to where you are today, like how would you describe that? What would you tell them their outcome could be?
I would probably say the outcome would feel like you have your old self again. That is one thing that I feel like I thought I was never going to get. The last happy memory that I have when I was younger was jumping up on tables and singing "I Love You, You Love Me" from Barney. Okay. Like, I was an entertainer, but I don't remember, that's all I remember. I don't have a single moment from the time I was 11 from 11 to like 29 or 28, 29. I don't remember having a moment of feeling at peace or happy or like myself. And I feel like I'm finally getting it. And I'm like, oh, I feel like that little kid is coming back again. And it's this happiness that you can't describe. It's like you really feel like yourself again. And if you feel like you're losing yourself, know that that old self of you is still in there. It's just a matter of you staying consistent and knowing you're going to get out of it. You might have to change your tune a bit and change plans a couple of times, and that's okay. But knowing you're going to get out of it is really the mentality you have to walk into things with.
That's amazing. And I can feel it through the phone that you're like joy when you talk about where you are today. And that's a really powerful thing. That's a really amazing thing that your holistic health journey has taken you on.
Thank you. It's just like you light up again. So like we want to put like that light on you. We want to switch you back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Barbara, thank you so much for chatting with me today and giving us such valuable insight into the importance of mineral balancing for your overall health, but very specifically mental health. Can you leave our listeners with where they can reach you if they want to work with you, if they just want to follow you? Can you give us a little handle shout out?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Barbara Madimenos, and you could, chat with me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll make sure that those are in the show notes for everybody to see.
Thank you.